Are you wasting your time and money on inefficiencies in the business? Are sales down and lead conversion rates are low? Are you having problems building or maintaining inventory levels? What does it really take to win in the automotive industry?
Get the cars that make sense for your store rather than just wishing at an auction, so it gives you that better control.
With over 25 years of experience, Darrell the Wolf Steed isn't just another industry voice. He's the guy who's out there solving real problems for dealers just like you.
They'll even say in the Pacific Northwest where you're at that it's a tougher market. It's, tougher to find cars. The market's a little bit softer. And in the midst of all this, your turn doubled and your profit's up 75%.
Yes.
The truth hurts only when it should. Are you ready to hear the truths? Darrell is here to unpack the hard truths and the proven strategies that will take your dealership from struggling to soaring. And he is taking it all in the streets, with real talk, open dialogue, unfiltered conversations. This is the podcast series, Street Smarts, powered by Smartwolf Consulting.
Hello, everybody. My name is Darrell Steed, and this is the beginning of a brand new podcast series called Street Smarts. Street Smarts is a extension of the Smartwolf Consulting brand to give you a do-it-yourself option for private party acquisition and building buying centers. Mastermind group attached to give you deeper understanding as we provide the foundational basics for everybody. As Smartwolf Consulting, for those of you guys who don't know who I am, my name is Darrell Steed, and I have been in the auto industry for just over 25 years. With the auto industry, I have started as a salesperson, worked my way up through multiple positions, went to the corporate side as a trainer for Kelley Blue Book Instant Cash Offer, and then now I've started my own consulting company 4 years ago as Smartwolf Consulting. I've had the ability to work with some really great clients, help them build a buying center, private party acquisition, effective trade process, service drives. When it comes down to it, I've started to get quite a few requests because this has become the focus of the automotive industry is the used car solutions. And what I think is extremely interesting is that this is my 14th year of building buying centers, and now it's just become really relevant. So it kind of shows you how long it takes to grab onto something in our industry. However, as only being an army of one, as so many people say, is it does become extremely difficult in being able to offer that solution to everybody that wants it because there's only so many hours in a day. So through careful consideration, we created Street Smarts, which is the do-it-yourself option, which allows you Web Academy access to the foundational basics of what I teach every day for 60 days and throughout the course of building buying centers so that you can take those foundational basics and then create your own team based on the principles that I have found to be extremely successful and overwhelmingly profitable. The Mastermind group is a real peek into the hood of getting deep understanding, real-time solutions, and examples that you can actually put in place in your store. So rather than just conversation and ideas, actually giving you actionable intelligence that you can use. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to create a podcast that would kind of take it to the streets as well, like all things streets. Right. And you'll see with the logo, multiple different backgrounds we have, but the Street Smarts, you have the dollar sign because it's really about profits, right? It's about making more money for the store, but in lots of different ways. We're not going to just focus on the front end profit or the back end. We're going to focus on all three elements, which is your fixed operations, front end and back end. But more importantly, by taking it to the streets, is we wanted to get the people in the streets, in the stores, on the ground, from vendors to stores. We're even going to actually get a couple of consumers that sold their car and get some real-time insights of exactly why they did that, what they were looking for, the differences between store to store, not to sit there and talk about executives or VPs or presidents or CEOs. But as we've all seen before, much like you see on TV and other ads, is that there's talking points. There's an agenda of what they want you to know and hear rather than real good open dialogue, unfiltered conversation of what we actually see, not what we want to have happen. And that was the real thing about Street Smarts is we hear all the things that are going well and we hear all the things that like this is how it should work. And then there's how it actually is. And with Smartwolf Consulting, The trademark phrase is the truth hurts only when it should. Well, let me assure you guys, as I talk to dealers and I talk to other people, there has been a lot of hurt feelings going around, which means that people are saying truths that people don't want to hear. Well, in the streets, that principle applies as well, because we're here to educate, we're here to conversate, and we're also here to ensure that we get the real look at what's going on and not just what people want us to hear. So I'm super excited to bring Street Smarts to everybody out in the automotive industry and to put another spin into the Smartwolf brand, which is a do-it-yourself option. Now, I'm going to spend a little bit of time as we introduce this podcast to talk about exactly why this empowers the dealer, and then how we're going to use the conversation to engage and give people the understanding of the acquisition strategies when it comes to used cars. So with Smartwolf Consulting, when we started out, it was really built on those two principles, is the SMART theory. And then I got the nickname The Wolf when I was with Kelley Blue Book Instant Cash Offer from my supervisor at the time, Ron Harbour. Is I would go into stores, and I had been in the automotive industry before that for approximately 14 years. And what was interesting is when I'd go in there, I'd seen different softwares, different tools, different setups. And somebody had called him and they said I was like a fixer, and that I helped them with a tool that had nothing to do with Cox Automotive. If I remember correctly, it might have been eLeads or another CRM that wasn't of the VIN Solutions. And so I helped him. I got it all set up. And so Ron had called me and he had said that he's like, man, you're like the wolf. So of course we had this back and forth dialogue. And what was interesting is like, that's right when Wolf of Wall Street came out. So I was like, oh, are we referencing that? Am I the crazy guy? And he says, no, he had referenced the character from I consider one of the best movies ever made, which was Pulp Fiction, with Winston Wolfe played by Harvey Keitel. Now, what I thought was great is that was one of my favorite characters to boot, but Harvey Keitel essentially is a fixer. And that's what I did, is that I'd go in, identify the issue, and then I would create a solution or help them fix it together, which that then bred in Smartwolf, right? We're going to work off the SMART principles and then use my nickname. And really what it embodied was we were going to get into this hand in hand together to build a solution that would empower the dealer to be more profitable, more diverse in the sense of how they incorporated their business plan, and more importantly, giving them back control of how they handled the used car operations rather than being reactive, creating a very proactive and consistent approach through process-driven success. Well, as we got going, I was very fortunate and happy to this day to get a couple of clients that we built some extremely huge operations. One so much as it ended up being the largest buying center in the country, with buying over 200 used cars every single month just from private party, and then buying additional used cars from third-party outlets like Kelley Blue Book Instant Cash Offer, AccuTrade, AutoHub, Edmunds Price Promise, and things of that nature. Now, this was fantastic. And then, of course, we hit that fantastic bubble of COVID, and then it really went bonkers. But we're going to take that year out because that's kind of ruining the curve. So building these buying centers that got really successful, then building the processes by implementing strategies and process, and then making adjustments and tweaks as it built out, gave us multiple different ways to go about the private party acquisition space. Then being able to then roll that into a service drive for either the trade up or trade out, so that you could actually buy directly from your service drive, and or create more of a upgrade process in the same realm. So again, part of the same team in the acquisition teams, but in a different model. And then obviously empowering the trade process to centralize itself and be the exact same thing, whether you were trading, upgrading, selling, purchasing, or private party. So that, again, we're being very thoughtful about how we build this and how we can make sure it's effective for everybody involved. Well, we got these things built. We have multiple test cases, great results, get DMS access and be able to build these. And if you went to Smartwolf Consulting and looked in the results page, you'll actually see two of the clients that gave us unfeathered access to be able to track this for them, to show them what they spent both on tools, staff, my services, and then what they made year over year as they got these things built. But then we realized one undeniable fact is, as one person, you can only help so many people. And more importantly, that there's only really that one solution for that unique client that's looking for something big and grandiose. So that's where this started, Street Smarts. So this is a 3-level type of experience. One was the podcast. The podcast was really going to give different people a voice to what was going on, taking that information and making it actionable for dealers so that they could kind of hear what's happening, identify with it, whether they empathize or they don't believe the same thing. And then they can form their own opinions based on getting real-time, real-life opinions and facts that are coming from the dealers themselves in the streets with vendors and consumers as well, so that it's not what we're hearing from companies or what we're hearing third party, but you're getting it direct from sources that are seeing it every day. The second step of this was creating a do-it-yourself solution. Now, obviously, it's always going to be one of those things that is typically going to get better results, and it's going to be more impactful when you do something together because you take a specialist or an expert like myself, and we get in the trenches together, and then I can help guide and assist and build these things out to ensure that you're going to be successful. And I have no problem saying I'm not a big fan of failure, so I'm going to put in the work that it takes to make you successful, because then we're both successful together. However, not every store is looking to buy 100 cars plus a month from private party and 50 cars plus from the service drive, and turning their trade-in process into centralization so effective that you end up taking in more trades, higher volume, higher profits. It doesn't fit all stores. So by creating the do-it-yourself option, which was broken into 2 segments, it gave an opportunity for all stores now, instead of saying that it's not for them, that they can take control and they can build their own acquisition strategy with the Street Smarts Web Academy, which is a very well thought out video series that talks about things from the energy that you need to cash flow to pay plans. And all the basic fundamentals that you would need and the foundational things that if you knew and you listened to and you understood, that it would give you a clear direction to where you need to go and build for your store. Then we created the Street Smarts Mastermind. Now, the Street Smarts Mastermind was a complementary addition to the Web Academy. For people that get that, we highly encourage that they get the Mastermind, because we pick subjects once a month, core subjects that are both in the Web Academy and additional subjects that are pertinent to the used car operations cycle. And we go into deep dives into these. So we'll have a mastermind group. Everybody can comment in there, questions and answers. But then we have one webinar a month that is a question and answer format. But before that webinar, you will see things injected into the mastermind group of pay plan examples, processes that you can build out, industry information that you may need, video series or videos built to where it's like a walkthrough of like what you can do, so that you have practical application and real-time solutions that you can put in your store. So if you've already started something or you want to start something and you're like, either one, we don't have the financial commitment to bringing in a specialist, or you already have something and you have really good people in your store that just need a little assistance and understanding, or you're new to a position, case in point, a GM, a GSM, a used car manager, a director, and you took the job, but you're like, listen, at the end of the day, these jobs are hard, and you're like, I don't want to mess it up. Or like you want to get a little bit more knowledge so that you know how to start, where to start, and what to ask. The mastermind's for you. So when you get that Web Academy with the mastermind, you're kind of getting a 2-for-1, because you get the basic foundations that you need to get started, and then you get that deeper understanding. Now, what the mastermind was really designed to do was to also keep stores from having to lose any money through making common mistakes, issues because of the lack of education in used cars, is that now you're empowering your people by investing in them into something extremely affordable, is that they get to learn these things so that it's less mistakes in your store, which in turn means more profits, not to mention you're empowering your people to learn more, which puts them in a position to be more successful for you. Just like the Street Smarts Academy, by putting that basic foundational in there, this isn't a per user type of agreement. This is a one fee structure that you get access for 12 months. So it helps with new hire training. It helps with education to both managers and buyers and even salespeople of understanding core things that they would need to know to have a better conversation with the customer. All of this wrapped up into a bundle of understanding that the more education we have and the more confidence we put into our staff, the better conversations we can have and the better experience that we provide to our customers. And though you may not believe this or not, but it has been proven true every single time that we get into any type of debate or argument, is the better experience in the automotive industry is the stores that are winning more. If you are still operating into that 1980s type of regime, or like the Suckers movies or Car Dogs or anything of that nature, not to say you're not successful, but there are always people having more success on every level. And that's what Street Smarts really wanted to go after, is creating the education and the empowerment so that you can create a better experience. Now, as Street Smarts continues their podcast, we're going to obviously have challenging subjects, and we're not looking for people to agree with everything that is said or opinions that we have or facts that we've been able to produce. This is one of those shows where it's like, if you don't believe something, okay, let's get into it and let's get a different insights. Because the good news is, guys, and kind of the greatest thing about both America and this podcast is we don't have to agree, okay, to understand different points of view, and at the same time acknowledge that learning can come from everywhere. So if we get two different points and then you learn something from that, that's also equally as strong for people to watch this and really embody that. So if you are one of those people that are in the streets, whether you be a vendor, whether you be a dealer, a GM, a GSM, a used car manager, a salesperson, and you want to get on a podcast because you have something to say that's relevant and that can help other people or give a different spin on things, I beg of you to contact me and let's get you on the podcast. I've already contacted over 40 people, and we are definitely working on getting different people from all walks of life in here. Like I said, we're going to even get consumers. I've already got 2 consumers booked to be on the show, and that's going to be great because we're actually the first one we're going to talk to. They were selling their car, and we're going to walk through exactly what they did, why they wanted to do that, what they encompassed, what they experienced, and what the experience was when they got there into a buying center. That's going to be really interesting because we get their perspective. So there's no angle here, right? It's like what they thought. So on that particular podcast, I hope everybody tunes in for that because that's where dealers are going to really have to understand. Okay, it really doesn't matter what you think you know. It only matters what you actually know. And when we get to hear from customers, we have to listen to what they're saying because we may have to tweak some things in our approach when we do that. So that is Street Smarts, and that is what we're bringing to you. Now, this is the introductory to the podcast. Our podcasts are going to be somewhere right around 60 minutes to 70 minutes, depending on the topic, because, hey, listen, if we're getting into it and we're providing value, we don't stop just because the clock stops. So we're going to keep going on some of those and create some overtime effect, getting some really interesting candidates. If you are a dealer, though, that is looking to take control back from the streets, right, and put it into your guys' service department, sales department, finance department. Okay, Street Smarts is definitely a way to go with the do-it-yourself option, or you can obviously have Smartwolf Consulting come in and give you that we build it together experience. And all you'd have to do is contact me and we put together a plan for you. Now, when we talk about, the industry as a whole, right, this podcast is also going to really go after, okay, processes, experience, and consistency. Those are the 3 things we really want to go after because the core value of the Street Smarts brand is partnership, process, and profits, right? Partnership in both the partnership from me to any clients that obviously are part of my organization, partnerships for you to your staff, partnerships to you and the customer, right? Partnerships are seen in everything we do. Process, I am a firm believer in process. The things you will hear in this podcast over and over and over again is 2 or 3 very resounding things. First one, process is black and white. Guidelines have gray areas. Guidelines are things we kind of do. Processes happen every day, every time, every minute. And process is extremely important to success because that is how you track, adjust, measure, and manage. The other thing you're going to hear is Smartwolf's trademark phrase, the truth hurts only when it should. So as you watch this podcast, if you're watching this intro and you're like, I don't really like it, or that guy's not right, and you get defensive about it, or you get upset about it, okay, psychology and surveys and everything has proven that if you get defensive about something someone says, it's because a little bit of the truth just rang true in your internal soul, and that's why you're getting upset about it. And I can prove this, and I can give you a story right here. It's like if I were to say you're standing next to your spouse, significant other, things of that nature, I'm like, wow, they're really ugly. Well, if you don't believe that, or you don't think that, you just go like, Darrell's kind of dumb, or you'd say I'm stupid, or you'd be like, oh, whatever, you'd ignore me. But if you get overly defensive about that, man, I'd wonder, is it true? Or do you think part of it's true? Same thing like I used to be extremely heavy, guys. I've lost about 100 pounds over the last 6 years. And if people called me fat, I was out of shape and I was overweight, and I didn't get mad about it because it was real. Now, if someone said that, I would just laugh it off, and there's no reason to get defensive about it because I'm not. But if I did get defensive about it, it'd be because internally I still believe that about myself. So part of the truth hurts only when it should is a self-assurity and self-confidence. Is if you don't have confidence in something and you hear it, typically it's because something internal works with you. I'm not saying in all things in life, just based on my experience and based on how they've done studies on when people get defensive over comments. Now, the one thing is we can remember, right? And for most people's parents taught them is sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Well, they hurt when you think they're true, right? So just keep that in mind, is that we're always going to talk about process. We're always going to talk about the truth hurts only when it should. And the last thing we're going to talk about is consistency. Now, in my 24 years of being in the auto industry, and if anyone wants to come on the podcast and debate this and show me a different way, I am more than willing to learn, because I'd love to see something that counterproves what I'm about to say, which is the only thing consistent in the automotive industry in 24 years in my experience and what I've seen is inconsistency. So we really go into the deep dives of consistency, and that is the key, right? There are 3 keys, right? Partnership, process, and profits. But in order to make that happen is we need process first, and we need consistency second. You have to have a process written, something that you can print out everyone can see, and you definitely need consistency, because how do you know it works if you never actually stick with it? And how we reference consistency is that I personally do not believe in the word try. Actually, I believe it should be abolished from the English language, because try is a thought. It is not an action. You cannot actually try anything. If you actually think about what I'm about to say, it makes some sense. Is you can't try anything, because the moment you do it, you've done it. So try is a thought of like, I'm going to try it. And then, for instance, let's use foods. I'm going to try new food. Well, if you put it in your mouth and you chew it, you're no longer trying it, you've done it. So there is either a do or do not philosophy and consistency. And if you've seen the movie Star Wars from 1980, Yoda was right, guys, is there is do and do not. There is no try. And so when we use the word try, in my humble opinion, it builds in a failure acceptance of, well, we tried. Well, you didn't. You thought about it and you never actually committed to it. So consistency is about commitment, okay, and execution. And when we commit to something and we execute it and we get that consistency, that's how we start to see success. A lot of great philosophical people. One that comes to mind is Tony Robbins, has the 6 human needs. And one of them is certainty, consistency. When they have that certainty, they perform better, that they enjoy life better. Well, consistency is where it starts. Now we can call it certainty, we can call it security, but it's the same exact thing wrapped in a different package. Consistency is the key to obviously building anything, maintaining anything, and being profitable consistently. So that is where Street Smarts is going to go. I wanted to spend a little bit of time as an intro to Street Smarts as you see the guests come on and talking about these things, is that kind of knowing where we're going with this, what it is. And we're hoping for having a diverse and an eclectic amount of people on here, because no one's opinion is ever going to be judged or dismissed. We want to hear everybody, but what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're doing it based on facts and data and what we're actually seeing, not our opinion, like our thoughts or feelings, because everyone has that. We're in a sensitive culture nowadays. And so we want to give things that people can think about, but they can put into action that have results. So whether it be people from the vendor side, from Auto Trader to Cars.com to Edmunds to True Cars, any of those type of vendors that are seeing dealers and what they're actually seeing to what we hear, or if it's dealerships where you have the low volume type of dealer that still does high grosses and really experiences the customer experience brand, or we have the velocity dealers that are doing high volume. Like, we want to hear from it all. Why? Because we want to see what's different. What's the same? How are they making it work? And then we want to get some consumers in here. And then we want to also get some of those industry people out there of what they can do to help, whether it be from buying at the auction and how you would do that successfully, even though that's one of the toughest things in the market right now. Whether it be buying centers, they're struggling, or what they see or what they experiencing and where they're hearing those roadblocks, so that we can kind of give those solutions to everybody out there as they listen to the podcast for things to go and attempt in their store, or to develop a strategy to see if it would work in their store. That's really the whole point of the Street Smarts, is getting the real-time analytics, the real-time happenings in the streets from the ground floor, not from the top down, and to educate everyone to Street Smarts in the private party acquisition space or the store space of really taking the excuses away, right? There's one experience. If you're looking for something big and you're willing to make that commitment, let's get on the phone. Let's talk about it. Let's put it together. I take on 4 clients a year. I'm making sure that they're profitable, making sure they have success, because if they don't have success, I don't have success. And, I want to be successful. If you're like, hey, you know what? I've got good people people. I've got good process. I've got everything going. Street Smarts do-it-yourself option is the way to go. You get a web academy, you get a mastermind, and you really get to empower your people with the foundational basics that you probably haven't done, don't know about, or where to start, because private party acquisition is something new in way of how we embrace it and how we develop it into our business strategy. I hope everybody ends up watching Street Smarts. I hope we get plenty of comments as we post these podcasts, and I look forward to having anybody who watches this intro inquire about being on the podcast, and we will get as many people on as quick as we can, because again, everyone should have a voice. Everyone should be able to help other people or talk about things or give a difference of opinion so that we can make sure that we're having real conversations and taking it to the streets. Thank you guys. I'm excited about the podcast and the products we were able to deliver, and I hope everybody is listening, watching, and engaging in the conversation.